could be fun, just for fun, to be in a longer. And there it is! Ball drive! Deep to left! Hockey has it! Takes it to second himself! This improbable season has another chapter to it!
And now they've got a call between third and home. The ball gets away. Into score Rosarena. The Rays have won.
There's your Dan Johnson moment. Oh, my!
And good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Rays Rewind podcast brought to you by WTAB Sports and also the Believe Podcast Network. It is a dreary, rainy, cold day in Florida. There's a storm coming through, and there was a storm coming through this week on social media because the Rays made the trade that everybody knew was coming. We all knew it was coming, guys. We all knew it was coming, so you shouldn't be sad. The Rays trade Tyler Glasnow and Manuel Margot to the Los Angeles Dodgers. It was coming, guys. It was only a matter of moments. It was coming. So for all of you crying on social media, on Twitter and X, get over it because it happened. You knew it was going to happen. It's business as usual. We're going to give you our reactions on the trade that sends both of those guys and a ton of money is freed up for the Rays to do many more things to come in free agency before the spring training season starts with what they traded away and what they got back too in return. They got Ryan Pepio and did I say his last name right, Drew? It's Pepio, right?
Pepio,
that's right.
Pepio.
I was like, man, remember to say Pepio.
I know.
Because a lot of people were saying,
butchered it.
Oh, did you?
I butchered the first time. I was like, I think it's Pepois or something. It's like that's what I told my wife when the trade was happening.
I know
couldn't
some
remember
people
how they pronounce it.
I know some people were saying Pipiot or Pipiot. Pipiot.
No. I'm glad that's not it.
Yeah. And they also get back Johnny DeLuca. I'm sorry, Johnny DeLuca from the Los Angeles Dodgers. In a trade that I honestly think it's a win-win for both parties. The Dodgers get their frontline starter. Obviously, because we don't know, the Dodgers don't know if Ohtani is going to be pitching this year because of his UCL surgery that he had the end of this year. So they've got their guy. That's probably going to be their number one because, of course, we don't know what's going to happen to Clayton Kershaw. He's probably going to be moving on to somewhere else. So the Dodgers get their number one guy. They also get – I honestly think the Rays – this tips in the Rays' favor because Margot, he's a fourth outfielder. I mean, he was in Tampa. His defense has kind of been slipping, and he was getting hurt for the past year or so a couple of times. So what I think the Rays got back in return, I think, I keep saying this on Twitter, is don't trade with the Rays because they'll fleece you every time. And I almost think the Rays fleeced the Dodgers. I mean, what were your thoughts when it went down?
Yeah. So when we talked, actually, was that just this past week? We had our kind of our last episode. So I obviously came to grips with the fact that Glasnow was going to get traded and had expressed that I know for all the reasons why it makes a ton of sense. So I was expecting it to happen. I still was sad to see him go because he was when healthy was such a dynamic part of the rotation.
Right.
I was I was happy for one that I had heard of both players that the Rays got back. So I had I play a lot of fantasy baseball, so I was familiar with Ryan Pepio and Johnny DeLuca because they were up with the Dodgers some last year, and I remember Pepio being
Pepio
had some really great numbers, especially towards the end of the year. So I was really excited, honestly, to know it wasn't like a Willie Adames situation where it's like some hotshot prospect. That's not even like highly ranked, but he's like all the way in single A, but he's projecting well, and we have to wait for years. These guys are going to be on the roster more than likely starting this year.
Mm-hmm.
So honestly, I was thrilled. And the fact that they were able to get rid of Margot and Glasnow together, one fell swoop was encouraging. I know there was a little bit of time where there was some chatter. The Dodgers weren't thrilled about Margot, or maybe wanting to include Randy in the
I mean,
whole
honestly, are you
in the
worried?
whole
Would anybody
Instagram
be
post.
would anybody be thrilled about getting Manuel Margot in that trade?
I mean, I feel like I don't know. I'm biased. I know that he's not been as great the last year or so, and he was hurt. The fact that he's dealt with injuries, again, a torn ACL, or I think that's what it was when he
Yep.
jumped. That's not. I don't think it's indicative of him being injury prone. I think that's just him.
Well, the Dodgers
Effort.
wanted to push for
Oh, Randy.
Rosario.
Of
Yeah,
course,
the
but
Dodgers. The
that's a
Dodgers
whole
were like, the
that's a whole
Dodgers were probably
different.
like, look, we want Kyler, but we
I
also kind of want Randy a little bit more too, instead of
Yeah.
Manuel Margot. And I'm sure the Rays were probably like, yeah, that's nice. That's not going to happen
No.
unless you want to
So
like pony up a lot more than what you're trying to give us. You know what I mean?
I think that I was trying to look up while you were introing and talking. When the Rays signed Blake Snell, it was 5 years, 50 million, right? So they signed him, and then they got rid of him 2 years into that deal. So he still had 3 years, because I was thinking about, how this was, being talked as another example of the Rays, getting rid of their star players. But this to me, like, I think the Rays, unless Tyler Glasnow goes out and just dominates, the Rays were not going to have Tyler Glasnow after this year. There's no getting around it, unless he was
'cause
willing to take a short-term deal at the exact same salary they were willing to keep him at this year. Which I still think they would have been able to. It's not that they wouldn't have.
He even knew it in interviews he was giving in the offseason, where he's like, look,
Right.
I've come to terms that this is probably going to be my
And
last year in Tampa Bay. And he said that, I think, in an interview, like, was it a couple months ago, where he
yeah,
knew it was coming, like, about the trade stuff, trade chatter already happening. So if it was either this year or, hit free agency next year. The Rays are smart. They've got a smart front office. And when it comes to dollars and cents, they would rather get the
yeah.
highest, value out of him before he hits the free agency market and get what they can. And I think with this trade with the Dodgers, they got lots of high value out of who they got back.
Yeah, no, I just, so there was no chance they were going to keep Glasnow. Like I said, unless he was I still think that if Wander's here and the Rays maybe make a slightly bigger run in the playoffs last year, maybe this is naive. I still think they shed some salary via Margot, Harold Ramirez, stuff like that. I think that they would have been comfortable, especially if the injuries hadn't happened, to some of the pitching staff. They would have been comfortable keeping the team as intact.
Yeah.
So Glasnow's not staying after this year, regardless, unless he's willing to take a hometown discount, so to speak, and same money for shorter term than he got with the Dodgers, which probably wouldn't have happened. So you're looking at guaranteed you're losing him after this year, and you're getting rid of a player that you're not keeping after this year anyway, because they wouldn't have picked up his option in Margot. So you're getting rid of $35 million in salary for 2 MLB ready guys, which is what we had heard early on in the offseason, is that, the Rays felt like they could still they're still going to be really competitive. So they're not going to look for just projectable
Prospects.
Minor leaguers. They're going to look for guys that can contribute now.
And that's what I like the most about the trade was,
yeah,
they're getting guys back that are automatically going to be on the 40-man roster. They're automatically going to be in the lineup, instead of, hey, we've got,
they're going to be on the team.
Yeah, instead of like, hey, we got 2 or 3 prospects. Hey, they'll probably be in AAA for maybe a year or two. No, these guys are going to be instantly they're going to be on the opening day roster, no matter what. So that's what I liked about the trade. And when we've done trades in the past, we've gotten a ton of prospects, which some of them we've seen, some of them we haven't even seen them. Some of them have been traded to other teams already. Yeah. So that's always kind of been my biggest gripe about the Rays when they trade off one of our marquee star players is, some of the times what we get back is, all right, well, these guys that we get back are making an instant impact. They're just going to be in the minors for a while. But this one is, hey, we've got two guys.
Mhm.
One's going to be in the rotation, probably number 2 or 3 guy. And we've got one guy that's going to be automatically, either a guy that can play anywhere in the outfield, which is fantastic, like anywhere in the outfield, which is great. So he's going to be in that lineup too. And
Yep.
I look at this both sides as it's a win-win because it's obviously we don't know how these two guys are going to be on the Rays once opening day happens, but on paper this is a win-win for both teams no matter what. And
Mhm.
For the fans that, man, you should have seen Twitter. I've seen some funny tweets and I've seen some just like, if you don't understand this team by now, go root for somebody else.
Mhm.
Like, I get the fan attachment about our faces of the franchise and everything, but when you know something is going to happen, where it's been talked about all year round, it's been talked about after the season was over about him leaving in a trade or whatever, stop crying about it. Like,
Mhm.
I understand that you made the investment of buying a jersey. Well, guess what? I buy jerseys too, but I don't buy them with somebody else's name on them. I buy them blank or I put my own name on it. So that's the
Mhm.
risk you have to take when you're a fan of the Rays is if you buy a jersey with somebody's name on it, they might get traded or they might
Or
just
they
leave
might
and go.
get
Yeah, they
get
might.
put on the administrative leave.
Right,
Administrative
exactly.
list.
But I think in terms of the fan perspective of it, this is going to work out for our side too as well. I think you're getting two MLB ready guys that are going to make instant impact. But if you don't understand the business of this team and the way they operate and the way they don't, spend money the way other teams do, then you haven't been invested in this team for a while because
Mhm.
that's the nature of this business with the Rays is they bring in guys from other trades and other teams. They nurture them when they're in the minors and they bring them up. And then when it's time to make a move, when they think the value is at their peak, they will make a move and they will get stuff back. And James is usually on the other side of things when he talks about the Rays, and I'm really surprised that he's on the actual right side of the Glasnow
Yeah.
trade. And he's correct. Like, look, the Dodgers it's a high risk, high reward with them with the Glasnow because he's 30 years old.
Yep.
He's had two surgeries already with him, and they're banking on him, being healthy for, the 5 years they extended him for. And to me, I think they will I think with him, and I'll do an over-under on this, he will probably be on the IL a few times in his tenure with the Dodgers.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, they're able to accept that risk, obviously,
They
with
are,
the
because they got
financial.
plenty of money to throw around, and they say, hey, we're going to take a
I,
chance. It's a high risk, high reward with him.
Mhm.
And this is the guy that we want.
I just think it's a real. It was such a low risk trade for the Rays because
Yeah.
of them. They knew past this year they weren't going to have. So you're talking about players they're going to have zero value to you after this season. So for
Mhm.
them to get 2 MLB ready players, with the injury history of Glass, so you don't know how. I mean, I would think I'm not going to go into the season thinking, oh, he's only going to pitch half the year, but he hasn't pitched a full year yet.
Only
In a few
120 innings.
seasons,
120
right?
innings. And he
So
was god awful in the playoffs.
if you look at it unbiasedly, without bias, at what his track record at Manny Margot and his last few seasons, the Rays' return is phenomenal.
Yep.
And makes a ton of sense. And it's not just a salary dump. And I know it's easy to kind of just read the headlines and peg that for the Rays. But it really is. I think it makes them a better baseball team. Maybe not right away, but obviously because Pepio's no Glass now when fully healthy. But maybe down the road, especially when they can use this extra
Drew,
35 million to sign Yamamoto.
Yeah, right. Drew, think about the
Just kidding.
rotation that we'll have mid 2024, and then look at the rotation we'll have in 2025
Yeah.
with the guys that will like. That's like, to me, we're gonna be okay. Rays
Oh, yeah.
fans that are losing their damn minds about this trade. Like, we're gonna be okay.
We have more than enough pitching right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Now the ceiling isn't as high,
Right.
but we have to have 8 to 9 guys because we're going to be on the 9th guy by May. So it seems like with our history. DeLuca his fit's pretty obvious. I think that the next move is probably going to get rid of Harold, although I could see them being willing to keep him.
I don't see the market for him being very high.
Yeah, it would,
and what
like the return,
right, and the return that you'll get with him won't be as much. I mean, I think the biggest need that they have right now is a catcher. And what the Rays need to do is maybe go out and spend a little money on getting a catcher. And that's one of the things that they need to really focus on getting. With Harold too. Yeah, I don't think what you'll get in return will be all that great. You maybe get some mid-level prospects out of him, if that. So I wouldn't be surprised if they kept him, maybe paid him a couple mil here and there, and then just let him go in free agency for 2025. So I just think the value of him isn't as high as we want him to be. It's just not there. The market for him isn't there.
Yeah, I would imagine it would even be more of a situation where they just want to get at bats to other guys,
right?
Like Curtis Mead, and it'd be different if one of them was a lefty or a switch hitter,
right? And DeLuca's gonna be
right-handed, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, with the outfield being as it is, I mean, there's plenty of depth in there too as well. So with the addition of DeLuca, who can now play all 3 spots in the outfield, you're going to have plenty of depth. If let's just say somebody gets hurt, like Randy gets hurt, or Siri gets hurt, which Siri's been hurt a few times during the year, you can put DeLuca in there to be in place.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great raise spending money. I think it's great, a great addition. I mean, hopefully he pans out and is valuable for the team. I mean, that would be a huge boost because that was the biggest thing, is that they just lost. When Siri was out, I mean, Margot used to be pretty great in center, and then you could tell had lost a step. Josh Lowe, it's been disappointing because I believe when he was coming up, it was talk that he was going to be able to play center if needed, or and it just kind of seems like he's not quite up to that level right now. But the depth in the outfield's great. Honestly, the biggest question mark is catcher. I'm a little worried about the pitching just because it's still a lot of guys. Eflin is somebody that was so good last year, but he's had his own injury history. And I believe last year was the most innings he's pitched, which was a testament to the Rays and how they managed him. But I'm a little worried that injury bug catches up with him this year. Shane Baz is coming back from injury from Tommy John.
Savali hasn't lived up to his expectations yet.
Savali was okay. I'm not saying I don't have a whole lot of expectation for him to be just a big time starter for us, but certainly serviceable. Taj Bradley, who knows if he's even up with the team to start the year.
Do you think they'll move Luttrell? I was going to say Luttrell. Do you think they'll move him into the rotation? He was really good.
Yeah, he was really good. I mean, I think as of now, I think it depends on what they want to do with. So what we have, so there's Eflin, who's your opening day starter.
Yep.
You have Savali. Then you have Pepio. Littell, Bradley, and Baz. So you have 6 guys. I feel like I'm forgetting somebody, but you have 6 guys right there. So obviously all of them won't make it. I think it depends on how they want to use Pepio. Because they haven't come out and said anything about it yet, because it hasn't been announced officially. I think that's happening today. But I'd be interested to see if they want to use him in that multi-inning guy out of the bullpen to start, and then but he was already throwing starters innings last year, so I don't know. I think Bradley's probably the easy choice to say, okay, hey, just start in Durham.
I think it all depends on also what happens during the spring too.
Right, and they could sign another depth, like a Michael Wacha type guy that okay, a veteran that comes in at the back end. I mean, I think Littell did enough last year. They certainly liked him enough. And he was really good. So I think he's still a question mark. What will it take for this trade to be a win from James? I think in my mind, I think it's so as far as Glasnow, as far as looking at what they gave up, the opportunity cost, anything past any performance past of Glasnow and Margot past this season, in my opinion, has no impact on if this is a won or lost trade for the Rays because Glasnow and Margot were not going to be on the team next in 2025. Not going to happen. So it's all about this year. If Glasnow comes out and throws 150 innings or more and is dominant and just one of the better pitchers in the National League, I think it's going to be pretty easy to say, regardless of how the Rays do or DeLuca does, that the Rays lost this trade in the short term. However, if Glasnow's hurt, or if Pepio and I don't have like a statistic in mind for either of them. I just think if they're valuable pieces to the team, and you can see that through their offensive production or through their pitching or their defensive production, like I just think that their value is going to be so much greater down the road too. That I think there's more paths to this being a win for the Rays than a loss, just because the only way it could be a loss for the Rays is if those guys bomb out this year and Glasnow is
and Cy Young
really
contention.
good. Yeah, really good. Margot
Yeah,
could do whatever. I'm not really worried about him.
I was gonna say I was kind of like in the same mindset as you. Is I think when it comes to who wins the trade, is it has to go performance based, and DeLuca doesn't have to hit 300 because where Margot was hitting at was what, almost a sub 200, if that.
Yeah.
So I think it has to perform. They have to be contributing to the team. They can't just be like they have to contribute to the team. You'll have to actually see contributions from these two to make it a win-win for the both of them. I mean, obviously, I think with the DeLuca side, DeLuca's just got to play a little bit better than Manuel Margot, and I don't think that's going to be hard for him. When it comes to Pepio, that's going to be a different story because Glasnow is a better pitcher, but I think it has to come to long. I think it has to just say, okay, we've got consistency from Pepio where it's enough to where he's getting wins and he's helping the team out. Where he doesn't have to be in Cy Young contention. He doesn't have to do that at all.
He doesn't
just
have to
has
match Glasnow.
Right. He doesn't have to do that at all. I think he just has to be a consistent pitcher. Like I think what he has to be is what we were trying to get back from Savali is, hey, be consistent like you were in Cleveland before we brought you over in that trade.
My concern is that without Glasnow, I think the floor for the team, assuming I know that the other moves will probably be made, but let's just say for the
they've
sake
got
of argument,
35 mil to play. They've got 35 mil to play with, Drew. I think there's going to be a couple moves.
Yeah, there'll be a couple moves. I don't know how high impact they'll be, but they're definitely not going to spend all of that money.
No.
But the floor for the team is just, I think, a lot lower now without Glasnow. That my concern is that, I mean, I don't know if you've looked at the start to the season. Not that the start of the season makes a huge difference. Of course, this past year is a great example of how it can because they went 13-0. But I'm worried about the team floor being a lot lower without Glasnow. I think it's definitely within the realm of possibility of them starting slow, failing to keep up with some of the other teams, and then having a really average season. And then if Glasnow's even just healthy and doing average to above average work, I still would think like I think the Rays in the short term came out on the short end of that.
I see them starting off slow and then hitting their stride midway because it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And I would love to see them do a flip flop of this past season for this season, is start off slow, hit your stride at the end of the season, then go into the playoffs and run it through. And I say that because I'm looking at the East.
Mm-hmm.
The East is still, I still see them in the top two of the teams. Like New York's, look, I know New York just got Soto, but they still have so many issues to address when it comes to their pitching. So they're a little bit better, but not
Mhm.
better to where they're going to be one of the top teams in the East. Toronto is a mess right now.
Yep.
The Red Sox kind of got a little bit better with the moves they've made so far. But with the Rays, I mean, they've only really lost Glasnow. That's pretty much it. They have everybody else, minus Wander. But after Wander had to be put on administrative leave, they were still playing consistent good baseball. So
Mhm.
I don't see them. The floor may be a little bit lower with them, but I still think they're still gonna be in contention for the East coming next year. And I
Yeah.
agree. I like 90 wins is to me still capable of this team, maybe 95. So
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they traded Blake Snell away and won 100 games the next year without
right,
any actual MLB pieces in return, if my memory serves.
and there's
Oh
still
wait, no,
moves to be
they got Mejia, I think.
right. They did, and there's
About
still
it.
moves to be made. So I mean, you can get those diamonds in the rough. Like, look, the Isak Paredes trade, they got him. Like, there was a diamond in the rough. I mean, you didn't know who he was until he came over to the Rays, and now he's one of the best hitters on the team. So
Listen, I think to DeLuca, looking at his, I know minor league stats don't always translate. I'm not
they've
saying they
compared him
do.
to Paredes. They're saying
Yeah,
he's
the
like Paredes, but faster.
advanced stats with the polling power and all that. But I mean, the guy hit career in the minors, hit 65 bombs, 271 average, OPS of 883. I mean, he hasn't had an OPS below 945 in his last 2 years in the minor leagues. In over like, I mean,
And
I'm
Drew, don't
looking at
forget
the
about like the young guys that we brought up
100
too that are going to be there.
161 games or 171 games. He's got an OPS over 920 in his last 171 minor league games. So, I mean, if this guy can hit with some power and some pop and field, I think you're getting an upgrade over what Margot was giving you.
Mhm. And the guys
And
that we
then
brought up last year too, Caminero, me,
mm,
we brought up those guys, so they're going to be on the 40-man roster too as well.
you, you
I
just
think,
hope the depth at pitching is
yeah,
good enough to make up for the loss of the ceiling of Glasnow.
that's the real question mark is the rotation going to be okay, and then also the catching thing. We need a catcher. Those are the
I'm fine with Pinto being our starting,
yeah, but
being the starting catcher, but
depth wise, we need catching depth.
yeah, I mean, if they went out and got Mitch Garver on a couple-year deal, I wouldn't mind that either. But yeah, I'm overall, I'm really encouraged by the trade. I think for what they got back and the outcomes that could have happened with the trade, for them to get rid of both Margot and Glasnow, only give out another $4 million, and to get the prospects they got back, I think you'd be hard pressed to find a better return. And also good for Glasnow. Like I genuinely, I mean, it's part of being a Rays fan, I guess. You see guys get their big money elsewhere for the most part. But I mean, I'm genuinely happy for him that he's going back to where he's from, getting his, 4-year extension over 100 mil. Great on him. I hope it goes really well for him. Um, I will say this one thing. I realize being a Rays fan means that guys trading guys away, dumping salary. I would hope my patience with it is high enough that with the new I can get to the new stadium once the new
Oh yeah,
stadium hits.
let's not get
I
into that right now.
I don't. If we keep doing this, in the 2029 and early 2030s with all the extra revenue they're going to be getting in from the new stadium and TV deals, I'm going to have a little bit more to say about it. But for now, I think it's what they got to do. They've been really good at it. This model, I'm not going to complain too much, especially with their history. They've certainly earned our trust in winning most of these deals in the long run.
I put a poll out the night of the trade happened, and out of 19 votes, everybody said they agreed. They liked the trade. 57% said they liked the trade. So it's a trade that I think everybody is okay with. It's for the people that just, oh my god.
Like, let's not try to make it easier on ourselves as Rays fans by slandering these guys and making them seem like they weren't as good as they were. Like Glasnow was awesome. When I know he wasn't healthy all the time, he was incredible for the Rays. Had some great memories, and was arguably our best pitcher outside of the 12 months that we got of Shane McClanahan being dominant. And then Margot, I mean, the 2020 playoffs, he was awesome. So I'm never going to have any bad things to say about either of them.
Either will
so
I'm good
we
for
don't
them. And
we
look,
don't need
when
to
you
make
can,
ourselves feel better and soften the blow by saying, oh,
well, look,
yeah,
when
he
you
was
have
washed up.
Ohtani himself sending him a message going, "I want to hit home runs for you." I mean, that's what Ohtani did. He sent him a message saying, "I want to hit home runs for you," and that's what pulled the trigger on the deal.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it came out. I think it was late yesterday where they said Ohtani sent Glasnow a message saying, "I want to hit home runs for you," and that's what really pushed the deal over the edge. Was like, "I want to hit home runs for you." So
Yeah.
that was that.
Thank goodness he did not sign with the Blue Jays. Oh my goodness.
I don't think that was ever going to happen. I think it was a leverage thing that the Dodgers were trying to pull, and
Probably.
they just dangled that little carrot out there where he was possibly going to Toronto. It was never going to happen. Toronto could not have afforded him at all.
I realize that, but man, I was starting to, that would have been a move. The Soto
Because
thing, I know we talked
the original
about,
trade pieces for that deal,
Ohtani.
if they were going to do that, was Bo Bichette and Vlad Jr. were going to be traded to the Dodgers for Ohtani, or traded to Anaheim for Ohtani. That was two of those pieces because both of them hit free agency next year.
Yeah,
and Toronto's not going to do that.
So glad that didn't happen though. That would have been a problem.
No, I don't care if he was on the Blue Jays. Bring it on. We'll bring it on.
I mean, yeah, in 5 years maybe it wouldn't be a big deal because he'd be hurt, or they would.
Well,
be
the biggest question mark too is when is he going to be pitching again? Because of his throwing arm, he got operated on. He's not going to be pitching next year or this coming year. He's going to be hitting. That's going to be it. He's not pitching at all yet.
Yeah. So I'm just glad he's out west. We can admire from afar, and the 3 games that the Rays play. Dodgers, we can worry about it.
Well, we hope everybody enjoys their weekend. It's going to be a nice one in Florida. Of course, it's going to be crappy all week. But thanks for joining in this morning for a special Saturday edition of the Rays Rewind podcast. We wanted to do this once the trade happened, but of course the trade happened like late night, which, for some people with children and families, we can't hop on a podcast that quickly. But yeah, give us your thoughts about the Glasnow trade. Of course, hit us up on Twitter or X at Rays Rewind Pod. We'll be back, of course, with shows if more moves be made. But of course, baseball season is coming up pretty quick. But for myself and Drew, we'll see you next time on the Rays Rewind podcast, presented to you by the Believe Podcast Network and WATB Sports. We are out. Peace.